that a sort of open-air sleep sometimes came after a long flight. It was, of course, not a real sleep, but a state in which everything about oneself is forgotten. No dreams, no movement, no falling asleep and waking up in the ordinary sense, but a condition of deep repose, in which recuperation is very great. Jimbo would have been greatly interested, no doubt, to know that his real body on the bed had also just been receiving nourishment, and was now passing into a quieter and less feverish condition. The parallel always held true between himself and his body in the nursery, but he could not know anything about this, and only supposed that it was this open-air sleep that he felt so gently stealing over him. It brought at first strange thoughts that carried him far away to other woods and other fields. While Miss Lake sat beside him eating her mushrooms, his mind was drawn off to some other little folk. It was always stopped just short of them. He never could quite see their faces, yet his thoughts continued their search, groping in the darkness. He felt sure he ought to be sharing his adventures with these other little persons, whoever they were. They ought to have been sitting beside him at that very moment, eating mushrooms, combing their wings, comparing the length of their feathers, and snuggling with him into the warm hay. But they obstinately hovered just outside his memory, and refused to come in and surrender themselves. He could not remember who they were, and his yearnings went unsatisfied up to the stars, as yearnings generally do, while his thoughts returned weary from their search, and he yielded to the seductions of the soothing open-air sleep. The moon meanwhile rose higher and higher, drawing a silver veil over the clouds. Upon the field the dews of midnight fell silently. A faint mist rose from the ground and covered the flowers in their dim seclusion under the hedgerows. The hours slipped away silently. "Come on, Jimbo, boy," cried the governess at length. "The moon's below the hills, and we must be off." The boy turned and stared sleepily at her from his nest in the hay. "We've got miles to go. Remember the speed we came at," she explained, getting up and arranging her wings. Jimbo got up slowly and shook himself. "I've been miles away," he said dreamily. "Miles and miles, but I'm ready to start at once." They looked about for a raised place to jump from. A ladder stood against the other side of the haystack. The governess climbed up it, and Jimbo followed her drowsily. Hand in hand they sprang into the air from the edge of the thatched roof, and their wings spread out like sails to catch the wind. It smote their faces pleasantly as they plunged downwards and forwards, and the exhilarating rush of cool air banished from the boy's head the last vestige of the open-air sleep. "We must keep up a good pace," cried the governess, taking a stream and the hedge beyond in a single sweep. "There's a light in the east already." As she spoke a dog howled in the farmyard beneath them, and she shot upwards as though lifted by a sudden gust of wind. "We're too low," she shouted from above. "That dog felt us near. Come up higher, it's easier flying, and we've got a long way to go." Jimbo followed her up till they were several hundred feet above the earth, and the keen air stung their cheeks. Then she led him still higher, till the meadows looked like the squares on a chessboard, and the trees were like little toy shrubs. Here they rushed along at a tremendous speed, too fast to speak, their wings churning the air into little whirlwinds and eddies as they passed, whizzing, whistling, tearing through space. The fields, however, were still dim in the shadows that precede the dawn, and the stars only just beginning to fade, when they saw the dark outline of the empty house below them, and began carefully to descend. Soon they topped the high elm, startling the rooks into noisy cawing, and then, skimming the wall, sailed stealthily on outspread wings across the yard. Cautiously dropping down to the level of the window, they crawled over the sill into the dark little room and folded their wings. End of chapter 11.